I need to tell you something that might sting a little bit. Right now, you feel alone in your marriage. The harder you fight to save it, the more she seems to pull away. And here's what's confusing. Talking about your problems should help, but it only makes things worse. Being nice to her should show you care, but it just pushes her away. And therapy, it's designed to work, but it's failing you, especially when she's already checked out. So here's the truth. None of those surface level fixes address the real reason a woman decides to stay or leave. There's one deep need she has that must be met first, above everything else. And there's one skill that unlocks it. Without this skill, nothing else works. But by the end of this video, you'll discover what it is and how to use it. You'll unlock her attraction again. You'll get her to look at you differently. And most importantly, you'll get her to let go of the past and focus on the future with you. So let's dive in. See, most men think fixing their marriage is like fixing a car. Your car breaks down, you notice the problem, you take it to the mechanic who's seen it hundreds of times before, and he gives you the exact fix that worked for everyone else. But your marriage, total chaos. One expert says, give her space. Another one says, no, be more romantic, show her with love. And your divorce buddy, well, he tells you to trade her in for a younger model. Here's the thing. Your marriage is not a car. When it breaks down, you can't just replace a part and expect it to run smoothly. Your marriage is more like a living ecosystem. Every action creates ripples, and if you don't address the right thing, you'll make it worse. So let me show you the 3 key differences between how you think and how she thinks. So difference number 1 is she trusts her emotions over logic. Let me tell you a story that a client actually told me. Recently, he moved into a new apartment. He was working upstairs in the common area and saw a woman sitting there. He wanted to meet new people, so he started a conversation. Within 5 minutes, he found out she just moved out after breaking up with her boyfriend of 10 years. They were engaged, living together, had a dog. Life was all planned out. So they asked, what happened? Was it cheating? No. Was it abuse? Nope. Did he suddenly want kids and she didn't? Nope. She said, my stomach told me it was the right thing to do. Now, I know, me personally, I know a lot of guys hear that and get angry or confused. How could a woman just make a snap decision like that? How can she throw away 10 years because her stomach or her gut told her? Here's the truth. She wasn't meeting a specific need that she had. And most guys don't even know that need exists. And you see, most women trust their intuition over logic. They give so much weight to how they feel inside their body, not about logic. It's about why they should stay. She leaves when her heart tells her to. She'll stay committed even when you're not feeling it. That's the beautiful part. You have honor and commitment. But she, after years of disappointment, she'll trust her gut and walk away. Difference number 2 is what's called the water glass theory. Now imagine this glass of water represents how, clear she sees your relationship. When it's crystal clear, she can see right through it into you, into your future together. There's no doubt in her mind, but every time just imagine like powder and resentment and pain just clouding the water. Now, in a healthy relationship, that powder that would cloud the water should settle into the very bottom over time. The water clears up, she's happy again. But here's the problem. The more fights you have, the more dirt you add. And every time you stir it up again, it gets cloudier and cloudier because of all the years of built up resentment at the bottom that she's been holding and festering inside. This is why in the beginning, if you forget to call her back or you didn't pick up something from the store, she'd get a little upset, but it wasn't a big deal. Now, the smallest things trigger her because it's not just about the forgotten tasks, it's about the years of unresolved resentment charging up all at once. She can't see clearly anymore unless you reduce that resentment. Nothing else will work. And sometimes that just pops and pops and pops. It's what I call popcorn brain, where it's like one negative emotion, then it's 2, then 3, then 5, then 10, then it's like all at once. Okay. Now, difference number 3, you were only given half the map. So let's be real. I hear it all the time, every week. You were sold a lie. You were told that if you provided financially, are reliable, give affection and protection, and do enough chores around the house, she'll always be happy. But that's not true. She has other needs that she used to get met and no longer does. So let me show you 7 examples. One is you provide financially, but not emotionally. Money can't buy connection. 2, you're reliable, but not exciting. You're always there, but the relationship feels stagnant. There's no playfulness, no spontaneity. 3, you avoid conflict, but you don't create resolution. Sweeping things on the rug doesn't fix them. 4 would be you give affection, but not attraction. Being sweet doesn't maintain desire. That's maintained through masculine energy and leadership with polarity. Number 5 is you protect her, but you don't challenge her. You never set boundaries or assert things that might cause conflict. And that kills respect. Number 6 is you do the household tasks, but you don't take the initiative. You wait for her to plan things or tell you what needs to be done. There's no leadership there. That adds to her mental load and takes away from your leadership. And number 7 is you're present but not engaged. You're physically there on the couch, at the dinner table, but you're distracted. Even if you're not on your phone, you're in your head and she can feel it. Women have that superpower. This is painful because you're there, but emotionally distant, and she feels that. And that only reinforces in her mind that you're not the right person for her. Now, let's kind of break down some common myths. Myth number 1 is talking about the problems solves them. And look, here's the harsh truth. Talking about the problems doesn't solve them. It makes more problems. When you bring up issues over and over, trying to work through it with dialogue, here's what happens. She starts to associate those negative emotions with you. You're poking at a wound without the right ointment. And over time, she subconsciously starts to think, this guy makes me feel bad. It's called classic conditioning. When 2 things are paired together, she'll eventually associate them. Even if you're not the original cause, you become the problem in her mind. I found a study that said happy couples take a solution-oriented approach to conflict. They don't rehash the same issues over and over again. They focus on moving forward. This ties into emotional tipping scales that we've created. On one side, you have a positive emotional experience with you. On the other side, negative. In the beginning, everything was positive, right? You were the hero. She ignored all the red flags because she was in love, right? But over time, through neglect, betrayal, fights, whatever, things started to shift into the negative. And when you're in that negative zone, nothing you do is seen through the right lens, right? These are misinterpretations, these are biases, these are assumptions, and even doing the right things, being nice, being romantic, is filtered through that negativity. So every time you talk about the problems, you add more weight to that negative side. Now, the heroic husband method is designed to eradicate negative behaviors first, but focusing on problems when she's already in that negative state, it'll never work. You must make sure that you redirect those emotions and shift those emotions first after healing them. Now, look, I've worked with many therapists. We have many coaches that are therapists. I'm not saying all these therapists are bad. And a lot of coaches and a lot of therapists that I've worked with developing our emotional layering method in the heroic husband method protocol, they aren't bad at all, right? But the traditional couples therapy model is outdated, and it's based off of Carl Rogers, which is Rogerian style therapy, which is relentless and ruthless positive reinforcement is one of their key testaments. And that's where most of the poison comes from. Okay. So let me tell you a story, right? One of the first couples I ever worked with came to see me. The wife had already checked out. And when I shook her hand, she didn't even make eye contact. She rolled her eyes at everything her husband did. The husband was the nicest guy. Just wanted to keep his family together. But I can see his faults too. He lost his edge. He was being overly nice. He had weak boundaries and was doing everything just to please her. They tried to work on things. They'd go on dates. But then they told me, Noah, before last week's session, we were actually doing pretty good. We were looking forward to our date. But after we left therapy, we had a horrible time. At first I thought, well, it's part of the process. We have to, kind of stir things up before they heal. We have to understand those wounds. We got to make sure we find the bleeding points, so on and so forth. But I started to doubt that, and I saw a different approach working with a lot of the other cases. So here's the truth. Most couples therapy just doesn't work. Why? This is because therapists don't have that personal experience, right? They haven't worked with hundreds of men, hundreds of couples. They stick to one modality and they don't question it, okay? There's even a saying when I was pre-med, there's even a saying that in medicine, research is usually 20 years ahead before it even hits the field. Now, that means that what they're working on is 20 years old in theory. That's kind of crazy, isn't it? Now look, so here's what happens, right? She comes home from therapy and she's been convinced to stay the course, meaning stay distant, stay guarded, stay checked out, right? Remember, that's that ruthless positive reinforcement, okay? One of our clients, we'll call him Jim, said, I'm convinced her therapist is pushing her to stay the course, which is the distance, all that, right? Then he said, my wife was pleasant and nice all week. Monday, she came home after therapy. She's been straight up mean ever since. This happens all the time. So should you see a therapist? Sure, individually, to process events and, get another opinion. But couples therapy, it doesn't work until you shift her emotions, okay? But first they have to heal. And if you want to know exactly how to shift her emotions and avoid the mistakes most men make, click the link below, book a free call with my team. We've helped hundreds of high-achieving husbands turn their marriages around using the heroic husband method and our emotional layering protocol. So let's see if we can help you too. Now, you'd think that giving your wife more of what she wants, what she's asked for over the years, would solve the problems, right? What's wrong? The more you try to make her happy, the less she wants you. Let me explain. If you're buying her gifts, taking her to expensive dinners, coming home early from work, agreeing with her just so that she's not upset, you're pushing her away with your neediness. She sees this for what it is, reactionary. And as the man, you're supposed to lead. You're supposed to act from your own internal values because you know it's right, not because you're panicking to try and fix things. And when you react to her, you step into your feminine state, and that repulses her. She can tell you're just doing it to make her happy. It's not authentic. There's an attachment to what you're doing. If I do this, she'll come back to me. And that's the essence of neediness. It's that exact opposite of attraction. You see, you can't logically change her mind. It's like walking up to a woman you just met and saying, look at my Rolex. I drive a Mercedes. I live in a mansion. You should date me. None of that works because logic doesn't influence her emotions. And the same goes for your marriage. The memories, the kids, and the vows, none of that keeps her if her emotions aren't aligned. All right, now, you know how her mind works. You know the mistakes that make things worse. Now let's talk about how to reset her emotions using the emotional layering protocol. And I wouldn't even say reset. It's more of shifting because your relationship is not a computer that you can just turn on and turn off again. Okay, so the core system inside the heroic husband method completely changes this. But first, we need to agree on the same fundamental truths. So truth number one is emotions dictate our perceptions. So imagine three people. One's depressed, one's angry all the time, one's happy and positive. They all get into a car accident. The depressed person thinks, of course this happened to me. Everything goes wrong in my life. The angry person wants to fight the other driver. The happy person, he gets out, makes sure everyone's okay, and maybe even makes a new friend. Whatever emotions you're experiencing dictate the experiences that you have in life. Truth number two is in a healthy relationship, you are leading her. She's reacting to you. That's the proper dynamic. I know some guys will push back on this. My wife's stubborn. She likes to lead. But in a healthy relationship between a man and a woman, the man leads. The women do not want to be in their masculine. They do not. Get that out of your head. That doesn't mean that you ignore her opinion. It means you ease her mental load by making decisions and guiding the relationship. She wants to be led, unless there's heavy trauma involved. Okay, and then we definitely have to heal that. And truth number 3 is your emotions transfer on to her. Our women are our biggest mirrors. Let me give you an example. Let's say you had the worst day at work. Almost got in a car accident. Your boss was mean to you. You spilled coffee on your favorite shirt. Everything just went wrong. If it could go wrong, it went wrong. You come home and you just want to relax. But your kid had the best day. He learned a funny joke. He's laughing his butt off. In that moment, your crappy mood shifts because his happiness transferred onto you. The closer we are to people, the more our emotions transfer. And as the man, when you're in your masculine, you have the ability to dictate and influence her emotions based on your own emotional stability. Now, the emotional learning protocol is a 3-stage system designed to rebuild safety, connection, and desire, not through words, but through visible, consistent actions. It's built on behavioral leadership, not fluffy mindset talk, just strategic masculine action. Here are the 3 stages. So, emotional healing process. The first stage is about removing resentment, both yours and hers, or understanding and healing any of those bleeding points. If you remember the water filter theory, right, with the cloudy water, there's sediment at the bottom, resentment. Not just hers, yours too. And deep down, all the things you never expressed, the pain, the betrayals, she's felt that. So the first step is healing your own emotional wounds. So let me share a story. Imagine you're walking outside. There's a Starbucks across the street. You grab a hot cup of coffee and you're excited to record a video. You see a guy walking towards you, but you're checking your phone. He bumps into you. Hot coffee spills all over your shirt. You're pissed. You want to confront him, but then you see him on the floor and your heart melts because giant black glasses and a walking cane fell out of his hand. He was blind. He didn't see you. Suddenly, you felt like a fool. A lot of the times, the betrayals and pains we experience, we take them personally. But you must understand, everything she did to hurt you was not intentionally designed to hurt you. She was being selfish. She was blind to see how it affected you. And forgiveness is wisdom. Wisdom is a memory without emotion when you can look at the past betrayals and forgive. It's like pouring fresh water into that glass, removing all the resentment. You see clearly again. The emotional healing process also includes taking extreme ownership. Here's a quote you've probably heard. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. You don't realize how much power and influence you actually have over your wife and your marriage. Extreme ownership resolves this. It helps you step back into that silent masculine power. Let me explain with a story. Imagine you're an emperor of a world's greatest kingdom. You're in charge of millions of lives, but with power comes tragedy. Plagues break out, kingdom fights on your borders. Multiple of your children die from illness. Even your wife dies in your arms. But how could you not curse God? Yet that's exactly what happened to Marcus Aurelius, and he decided to take full ownership of his life. One of his quotes says, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you'll find strength." Here's the question. Are you giving away your power? Are you blaming her mental health, her past traumas, her therapist, her friends? Those things were always there in the beginning, but you had a crystal ball of love. Nothing can get through. The bitterness and resentment creates cracks, and that's when outside influence is starting to affect how she sees you. Extreme ownership solidifies the crystal ball again. The biggest benefit is you trigger her emotional safety. And when you own your life, you focus on growing and improving. And if you don't change, your circumstances won't change. Then second stage is about shifting the emotional shifting process, shifting the emotional tipping scales from negative to positive. Remember the scales that we talked about earlier, where every interaction is either adding weight to the positive side or the negative side? Well, here's the key. You can't just stop doing the wrong thing. You have to start doing the right things. And it's not about grand gestures. It's about consistent small actions that prove to her over time that you've changed. And this is where most men fail. They think one big romantic gesture will fix everything, but it doesn't work like that. She needs to see behavioral leadership. She needs to see you lead with calm confidence. She needs to see you take initiative without being told. And she needs to see you stay grounded when she tests you. The emotional shifting process also includes mastering the Stockdale paradox. And here's a quote, right? You must never confuse faith that you will prevail in the end with discipline to confront the brutal facts of your current reality. And I believe that's from Admiral James Stockdale, right? And you want to get her back quickly, right? But you're unsure if you can. This creates high anxiety, and that anxiety transfers to her, making her associate you with negative emotions. So here's the solution, Stockdale paradox. You have high certainty you'll get her back, but you're in no rush to do so. Let me explain with an analogy. Think of a man who's rushing through sex, trying to get to the end as fast as possible, unsure if his wife even wants him. How would that experience be? Probably not great. Now think of a man who's calm, who teases his wife, who's in no rush, and who is certain she wants him as much as he wants her. That's intense. That's great intimacy. That sexual process is a microcosm of the whole relationship. When she puts up resistance, you don't get anxious, you don't force it, you take it slow. You have certainty. You play with her, you flirt, you have fun. Here's the mindset that changes everything. She's the one. She's just a little confused right now. I fell off the horse, but I got back on. I'm in no rush, and I know I will succeed. That is the mindset you must have. Then, third and final stage is about rebuilding trust and reigniting desire. This is where she starts to feel safe with you again. This is where attraction comes back. And this is where she looks at you and thinks, this is the man I married. But here's the catch, she's not going to test you. One of the most common questions we get is, how do I show my wife these changes so she believes I'm a new man? You can't do it through logic. There's a subconscious way she gets proof, through tests. So let me kind of explain this. Imagine there's a building that represents you. She used to live in it, but over time the foundation cracked, things fell apart, and she didn't feel safe anymore. So she left. Now from the outside, it looks like you've rebuilt, but she's not going to jump back in. She's going to stress test it. She'll take a sledgehammer. She'll press on the walls. She has to test the building to feel safe living inside again. This comes from questioning your decisions, expressing doubts, or being upset without a clear reason. She just wants to see, you say you've changed, but I need to see it over time. The more you pass her test, the more she trusts you. The more she leans into you, the more she wants to get closer. The emotional bonding process is where you reclaim your masculine presence, where you lead her emotionally, where you create the kind of connection that makes her feel chosen, seen, and desired. And that's when everything changes. But here's the bottom line. You now understand how her mind works. You know the mistakes that push her away. And you know the 3 stages in the emotional layering protocol. 1 is emotional healing process. Move resentment and take extreme ownership. Number 2 is the emotional shifting process. Shift the emotional scale through consistent strategic action. And then number 3 is the emotional bonding process. Rebuild trust and pass her tests. If you're a high-achieving husband who's already taken action and turned your marriage around, I invite you to book a free call with my team. We've helped thousands of men rebuild trust, rekindle desire, and save their marriages using the heroic husband method. When she's emotionally shut down or ready to leave, click the link below. Let's see if this is right for you. And remember, she's the one. You fell off the horse, but you got back on. You're in no rush, and you will succeed. I'll see you in the next video.